Hi, everyone. One of the most common things I'll often hear from people suffering from depression is just how alone they feel. Not just in that no one understands what they're going through, but also that they just feel like there's no one around, like their social network has disappeared and that they've lost all their friends and that no one wants to be with them. We know that a social network and having an intact social network is a really important protective factor in terms of preventing depression, but it's also a really important factor in terms of helping a person come out of depression and helping prevent future depressive episodes. And so that's why having an intact social support network and having a good sense of social connection is really, really important. Now, in a previous video, I talked about the nature of your social network and that a social network isn't just an amorphous blob of people, but rather a ring, a series of rings of people in terms of their level of closeness to you. And so in today's video, what we're going to be talking about is ways of building your social support network, even if you're feeling depressed. And the first place we're going to start is reviving old friendships, essentially reconnecting with people you used to be friends with that maybe you've lost touch with. Maybe you've lost a sense of connection. Maybe you've just had a falling out. Whatever the case, these are people who used to be close to you, who you no longer interact with very much, no longer talk to, and aren't part of that important social network and social connection with you. So, one of the things you might be thinking about is, well, why is it so important? Or what's the big deal about reconnecting with old friends? Why can't I just focus on making new friends? Well, to answer this, I want you to imagine a scenario where you're deciding that you want to make a bunch of new friends. And the way you're going to do this is you're going to take a big sign and you're going to walk out onto the street, and the sign says, I want new friends. Who wants to be my friend? Now, imagine the types of interactions with people that you're going to have in that scenario and the percentage of people that you're going to come across that you may want to be friends with. And so if you interact with 100 people, what percentage of those people are you likely wanting to be really close friends with? What percentage of those people do you feel a connection with? What percentage of those people do you have some chemistry with? What percentage of those people seem to be interested in you? Well, maybe it's 1%, maybe it's 5%, maybe it's even 10%. But even at that, that's not a very high percentage of the people that you've interacted with. What it means is that 90 to 99% of the people that you've interacted with aren't really people that you'd want to be close friends with. And that's not to say that 90 to 99% of the population are bad people. It just means you don't have a sense of connection with those people. And so this is why it's so important to think about, if you want to expand or build your social support network, is to think about reconnecting with people that you used to be friends with. And there's some really important reasons why this is the place I get people to start when they're thinking about, how do I build my social support network in the context of depression? And the first reason is that you know you have compatibility with these people. You know that you have compatibility with these former friends because at one point you used to be really close to them. You know that you've shared a sense of connection with them in the past. You've had common interests. You've done things that you've enjoyed together. And so if you're looking to reconnect with people, by reconnecting with old friends, you're reconnecting with people that you know you have some common interests with. And if you want to start doing some of those activities again, maybe these are people that you can do those activities with. we talk about that example of having the street sign and you meet maybe, 10% of the people that you might be interested in being friends with. Well, it takes some time to sort of screen those people to figure out what level of friend you want to be with them. So, how close do you want to be to these people? You don't know because you don't really know them, and that takes some time. Whereas past friends, you know that you have some compatibility with them, and so it can be really easy to just get back into having a close connection because you know that you share some things and that your personalities mesh. And related to that, there's a sense of closeness that you know that you share with these people. You know that these former friends are people who you have been close with. There is a sense of intimacy, a sense of connection. And so you don't have to build that. It's already pre-built in these relationships. And so if you're looking for people who you know you can feel close to and that you can open up with, this is a good place to start. And the final reason that it can be really valuable to reconnect with these old friendships is that you have a shared history, right? You have a history of the friendship. You have a history of the relationship with this person. And that can be a really great way to reconnect and to form the basis of conversations. It's not like you're having to restart entirely with somebody new. You have a history with this person, and that history can be part of what reconnects you. So there's a whole bunch of reasons why it can be really, really helpful to reconnect with people that you used to be friends with. And that's the easiest place to start when you're looking to build your social support network. But oftentimes there are some barriers. There are some reasons why people are hesitant to reconnect with old friends, reconnect with people who have fallen out of their social support network. And there tend to be 5 main barriers. The first of which is distance. Sometimes relationships end because your friend moves away, or maybe you move away. And so there's just now a lot of distance between you, like physical distance. And so it's hard to maintain a relationship. Now, while it's not ideal for all of your friendships to be these long distance types of relationships, it can be useful for some of those closer friends to reconnect with them, even if they do have some distance from you, even if they do live in a different city. Because nowadays it is so much more easier to keep connection with other people, right? There's lots of different ways in which you can stay in contact. Text messaging, phone calls, video messaging, social media. There are lots of ways to be able to reach out and stay in touch with someone. And so what you want to do is to not let distance be a barrier for reaching out to someone. So yeah, it's different than sitting down and having coffee with your friend once a week, but having a video chat or texting with them regularly can help you feel like you are reconnected, that you are connected with them and that they're there for you. And if you're going through a difficult time, you can talk to them about what's going on, and they're there to hear you. They're there to listen. Distance doesn't have to prevent you from having those friendships. Another barrier that can make it difficult to reconnect with old friendships is that sometimes those friendships end because of disagreements, that there was some sort of falling out that led to you losing touch and losing contact with your friend. Now, some of these disagreements, some of these falling outs can be pretty major, right? So my friend cheated on me with my partner. Those types of disagreements, those types of falling outs, there's probably no coming back from that. But for a lot of these disagreements, for a lot of these falling outs that people will have with their close friends, and sometimes their very closest friends, is that time tends to heal. Time tends to take away the heat from some of these disagreements, that looking back on it, maybe it wasn't that big of a deal. Or another way of thinking about it is, think about the value of the relationship when it was at its peak, when it was at its best. How important was that relationship to you? And now compare that to how important or how big of a deal was the disagreement. And sometimes with having some time and some distance from the disagreement, from the falling out, you can recognize that the relationship itself was more important and a bigger deal to you than the disagreement. And so it can be helpful to reach out to these friends that maybe you've had some disagreements with, because sometimes they may want to hear from you as well, and that the disagreement has lost that heat for them. And so that can be a really good way of reconnecting with someone who used to be an important person in your life, and that these past disagreements don't need to be a barrier. One of the things that can happen in depression is that the person who's experiencing depression can feel a great sense of insecurity, right? They don't really feel good about themselves. They don't like themselves. They may not think that other people like them either. And so this sense of insecurity can be another barrier for reconnecting with old friends. Will they like me? Did they ever really like me? Maybe they're just trying to be nice, but they always thought I was a little bit weird or not really, they were never really interested in me. Or maybe they used to know me as who I was before my depression, and now, if they saw me now, what would they think of me? They'd probably think so much less of me because I'm nowhere near the person I was before. The thing is, you don't want insecurity to prevent you from potentially reconnecting with a friend that can be an important source of social support. Now think about it. Worst case scenario, you reach out to this friend and, they're really not that interested in reconnecting with you. What if you lost? Well, you've lost the friendship, and that's not great. But if you don't reach out and you don't try to reconnect with them, you've lost the friendship anyway. So by reaching out, by trying to overcome that sense of insecurity and reaching out to your friend, what you're doing is almost like you're buying a free lottery ticket. The only outcome that could happen is a positive one, that your friend does want to reconnect with you, because if they don't want to reconnect with you, well, nothing's really changed anyway. So try not to let that sense of insecurity prevent you from reconnecting with these old friends. And sometimes what can happen is that friendships end because you feel a sense of abandonment, that they've abandoned you when you were depressed. Maybe the friendship ended because of your depression, that you started to feel depressed, and then you noticed that all of your friends, or some of your closest friends, just completely abandoned you and left you. Now, while this can sometimes be the case, I want you to imagine this following scenario. Suppose it's been a little while since I've heard from my friend, and I reach out to them and I call them and I say, hey, it's been a while. We want to get together for coffee or dinner sometime. And my friend says to me, yeah, that sounds great. I'm just really swamped with work right now, and I got some things going on in my personal life, but let's try in a couple of weeks. And I don't hear anything from my friend in a couple of weeks, and I reach out to them again, and I say, hey, we talked about going for coffee or dinner. How are you doing now? Do you want to get together now? And they say to me, yeah, sorry, it's a lot of stuff still going on. I can't really do anything right now. Let's try again later. So I wait a few weeks and I reach out to them again. I text message, hey, how's it going? It's been a while. You want to get together? And they just takes them a couple of days to reply to me. And when they reply to me, they just say, yeah, sorry, just got too much going on. I can't really do it. I wait a little while later. I call and leave a voicemail because they don't answer the phone, and I never hear back from them. I send them a text message. Don't hear back from them. What am I likely to think about my friend's interest for interacting with me? Well, I'm probably thinking, look, they don't want to spend any time with me. They don't want to invest in this relationship. what's the point in me continuing to reach out to them? What's the point in me continuing to try and maintain this friendship when they're showing no interest in wanting that friendship? Maybe they're just not interested in me. And so you see, my friend may be spiraling into a depression, and that's what's causing them to withdraw and be less interested or being unable to go out with me for dinner or coffee. But I'm interpreting their behavior as they're not interested in me. So that sense of abandonment that you feel from your friends may not be that your friends have abandoned you, but it's that they feel that you've abandoned them. If they don't know that you're experiencing depression, they don't know what you're going through, they may interpret that withdrawal behavior that's really common in depression as a sign that they're not interested in you. So the only way to find out is to reach out to your friend and maybe explain to them why you weren't responding to them. And you might be surprised to find out that they're super happy to hear from you because they thought you weren't interested in them. And finally, the last barrier that can stop you from wanting to reconnect with old friends can be a sense of insensitivity. So maybe while you were starting out and your depression was starting, you had some friends make some insensitive comments to you. Things like, oh, you just need to cheer up, or you're just being a downer. Come on, just pick yourself up by the bootstraps. It's not that big of a deal. Why are you always so down and negative about everything? Now, these insensitive comments can be really hurtful at the time, and you may think that, look, I don't want to be friends with someone who doesn't understand what I'm going through or can't be supportive to me. Now, sometimes, though, that insensitivity isn't coming from a place of this person's trying to be insensitive, but more a place of they don't really understand. They don't get what you're going through. They've never experienced depression before, maybe. And so for them, it is just a matter of you just need to cheer up and not be so negative. With a little bit of education, a little bit of understanding, a little bit of explaining, maybe your friend would recognize that, some of their well-meaning comments were actually kind of hurtful. And so maybe they just need to understand a little bit more about what you're going through, and for them to be more sensitive, for them to be more understanding. It's not that they don't care, it's just that they don't really get or understand what you're going through. So you see, all of these barriers I've talked about, the distance, the insensitivity, the feelings of abandonment, all of these types of things, all of these barriers, there's ways around them. And so what you don't want to do is to let these barriers prevent you from being able to reconnect with friends and get the benefits of that social support network and that social connection that can come relatively easy by reconnecting with friends who you used to be close to. So if you can relate to this, if this resonates with you, the question you might ask is, okay, well, where do I start? How do I do this? How do I reconnect with old friends? Well, the first thing I often encourage people to do is to sit down and write out a list of maybe the 3 or 4 friends that you used to be really close with that maybe you've lost touch with. And then to think about setting some goals around what can I do specifically to reconnect with this person? What might be something that I can do to try and bring this person back into my life? It might be send a text message. It might be inviting them out for coffee. It might be if they're a coworker that you used to be friends with that you've lost, that you haven't really talked to in a while. It could be starting up a conversation with them. Whatever it is, you want to be intentional. You want to set a plan for what is it exactly that I'm going to do to try and reconnect with this friend. By bringing these people back into your social support network, you can help build that sense of support, that sense of social connection that can be really helpful in terms of overcoming depression. If you want to learn more about the importance of having a social support network and why a social support network is so important in terms of overcoming depression, I encourage you to check out this video. So that's all for today's video. As always, thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video, and I will see you in the next one.